Yeah, to a couple of your points, yeah, step out of your comfort zone. If you think I'm standing up here because I enjoy speaking in front of people, you're crazy. Yeah, and again, to your point about having credentials, like I said in my opening, I'm just a parent, but that's all I need to be. So, okay, we're going to change this up. We only have one more speaker, one more brief speaker. However, I was really hoping to get students here today, and as it turns out, we have a couple that volunteered to speak that I just found out about at the beginning of this. So I'd like to invite you ladies up. Come on, it's okay. I don't have a lot of information here, so I'm going to ask you guys to just say your... Oh. Take it over.
I want to thank these girls. They came up to me and I asked them if they would speak today. One took the SBAC test, one opted out of it, so you're going to see two different views on how these girls feel. Sierra, what grade are you in? Sierra's in 8th grade. Allie is in 8th grade as well. Sierra's going to go up first. She's going to explain what it's been like in the school system for her.
My name is Sierra LaBranche. I am an 8th grader at Ellington Middle School. So that means I'm 13 years old, and I'm here to talk about my experiences as a student with the Common Core SBAC test. I did not take the test, so I don't know. I do know that the teachers didn't really let us have like a lot of breaks, and they made us like sit around in the classroom for like 5 hours, so it was kind of boring. I had to read like 3 books. They didn't have anything for me to do. That's what frustrated me, is that they wouldn't let me work on extra work. They wouldn't let me talk to like my teachers or to get any extra help in case I was confused. They made me sit at my desk and read all day. So, but in previous years, Ellington Public Schools has split the courses like in 2 based on your learning levels, your learning ways, and your understanding on the curriculum. Now all students are taking the same course because of the way that Common Core is set up. So instead of having like an advanced class and like a class of like kids that are like not average but that like need a little bit more help or like individualized help with teachers, now we're all learning the same curriculum. So that's holding some kids back, and that's another thing that frustrates me, because for as long as I can remember, I've been getting honor roll, and now I'm learning things that I learned in 6th grade. They just keep on repeating it because they're trying to teach the other kids to try and keep up. Last year we had Math 1 and Math 2. Math 1 was a little more advanced, and Math 2 was like the fundamentals of pre-algebra. And now we're all working out of the same book. They used to be behind us by like 2 books or whatever, but now they're all the same. So they're trying to keep us all level, and that's a disadvantage for some kids because it's holding us back and we're not reaching our full potential. So one thing that I notice is that some teachers don't really like it when you're opted out. I remember one time I had last year when there was the testing, they were telling kids to log on to the computers, and my mom had already opted me out and given a paper to the teacher, to the principal, like everyone had a copy. And we had this teacher who was more advanced with the computers and everything come in and try and help kids because like some technical difficulties could be going on. And the teacher was basically telling me to log on, and she was saying that I had to take the test. And I knew that I didn't have to, so I was technically arguing with like a substitute teacher of what I had to do. My concerns are that basically that kids aren't getting their full potential. Like I understand that And then it could be a benefit for kids that are a little bit more behind to try to not have to work up so hard. But then again, that's a disadvantage for like honor roll kids or like kids that are supposed to be taking high school courses right now. Like, so we're not really reaching what we should be. Last thing that concerns me about Common Core is there tends to be a lot of violence in the things that we read. I had a social studies article that I had to read, and it said there was this kid named Michaela, and her parents abused her, and they threw her out of a moving vehicle into a adoption center, and like in the front door of an adoption center when she was only 4 years old. And she had a facial disformity. So they were talking about how, like, the ladies who took care of all the kids, there were 27 kids there, and they called her number 27. Like, they didn't call her by her name. They said that she was the least favorite. Like, they mistreated her. She got the least amount of food. They were saying that no one would want her. And they were basically, like, doubting her potential. And then they make, like, the state, they say that the state took her in, and they found her, like, a loving home. And they're trying to make it look like, I don't know, like that the U.S. is perfect, but it's not. So they're trying to make it look like the government is the answer to everything. My mom opted me out of the SBAC testing, and you can do the same by going to ctagainstcommoncore.org.
Hi, my name is Allie. I'm 13 years old, and I'm also an 8th grader at Ellington Middle School. And I took the SBAC testing last year, and I got pretty frustrated because the questions seemed to be like heavily worded, like overworded. So it got me mad because I didn't know what the question was asking because it kept throwing in a bunch of like non-necessary information. So I have an example from a 4th grade sample of the Common Core, and it says, selecting option A indicates the addition of addition 4/3 rather than the subtraction of 4/3 from negative 31/6, which is a result of the operation of subtraction not being applied to both the terms in the expression 5/8 x plus 1 1/3, and it just keeps going on listing like unnecessary information about the fractions. And it was basically like that through the whole test. And the test was like 4 hours long, and we only got a 10-minute break halfway through. And we had to do the testing twice, one for like language arts and the other one was for like math. And if you didn't finish the test in time, out of like the 6-hour school days, we had to go to a different classroom, finish the test, using the rest of our like potential learning time, doing a test, staring at a computer screen until we finished it. And you basically, it just got me really mad because kids are being set back, like Sierra said, because everybody's learning the same thing just at different paces. So it concerns me that like what's going to happen when kids want to go to like college or something. Is it going to affect like what colleges kids can get into and stuff? So basically the Common Core SBAC testing was worse than me taking the CMTs, because CMTs had more like basic questions and it didn't like change from person to person. So, yeah.
Yeah, to the point of what Cheryl mentioned in her presentation, and we actually successfully opted out. Not that they really had much of a choice, but that 4-step process. Excuse me. Yeah, we started in September, and it went up until right till the school started. And I'm sure it helped that we actually made the front page of the Waterbury Republican with a big article in that stating that we were not going to let our kids take the tests, and they were instructed to go see the principal if they were told to do so. We provided them with something educational to do while the tests were being taken, by the way. So, anyway. Our last speaker, Lisa Simo-Kinzer. In 1988, she graduated from Western State Connecticut University with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She worked for several years in the community and as a counselor for individuals with severe and prolonged mental illness in a residential program funded by the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Additionally to working with adolescents and partial hospital program at Waterbury, she decided to return to work full-time in 1994 to get her graduate degree in social work in order to better serve her clients. She was also working full-time during this and graduated from Fordham University with her MSW in 1996. In 1998, she received her licensure in LCSW. Since then, she worked with many different client populations and currently works at the Cheshire Correctional, a maximum security prison for adult male offenders, as a clinical social worker. She's an advocate for people's rights, and in her spare time, she is a mom of our 3 children. So, yeah, she's pretty amazing. And, she's also my beautiful wife. So, no bias there. Today, she'll be talking about the recent changes that's been spoken on by others on FERPA, the Family Educational Rights Protection Act, and how it has loosened parents' ability to keep their children's information private. Additionally, she will discuss how HIPAA comes into play in all this in regards to school-based health centers. Please welcome Lisa Simo-Kinzer.
I'm short. Hi, guys. Thanks for sticking around, first of all. I know this was supposed to end by 1 o'clock, but we really appreciate you diehards that are still here. I'm not going to belabor the point. Back in 1974, there was the formation of the FERPA Act, which basically protected students' rights and the parents' right to limit what information is given about their children. Flash forward to now, in 2011, the end of 2011, they made changes to FERPA, significant changes that even our legislator representatives have no idea about. How do I know that? Because I educated them at the State Board of Education meeting back in February. So here's how it played out. The way it connects to Common Core is the fact they knew they needed the database information. How are you going to get the database information? People have actually suggested HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Privacy Act, which protects all of your medical information, and FERPA really got in the way of that data collection thing that they really want to get their hands on. So they decided that they needed to loosen up the laws a little bit, and they needed to do it so quietly it wasn't even going to go through the legislature. Arne Duncan, in his esteemed wisdom at the United States Department of Education, decided it would be a really good idea to let's redefine certain aspects. The first one you've already heard about. It was the personal identifiable information. One of the things that's not stated is part of the PII, as it's more commonly known, can be biometric records, which can be fingerprints. Any parents here know of a student, your students who use fingerprints in order to buy like school lunches, take out library books, you put your finger down on a keypad? Yeah, it's registering everything. Our children in their school right now, there's no longer any money changing hands to even buy a school lunch. It's all done on account. Not to mention my kid's picture and profile comes up on the computer for the lunch lady that she enters in every single thing that each of my children is eating. I looked at that and went, why can't they just hand you $3 for their darn lunch? No, it's not done that way anymore, Mrs. Simo-Kinzer. You know, we have to really get the account set up so that we can kind of monitor what are they. Why do you need to monitor what kind of milk my kid drinks every day? Data collection. So in order to do this, they needed to change the restrictions. FERPA used to protect the kids completely. Not so much anymore. If you actually go into the statutes and look at FERPA, you will see that there's about 5 sentences, 6 sentences of how a parent's able to access their own child's information. There's 6 pages of exceptions. 6 pages. Basically, they're basically outline that anybody who is then determined to be a qualified person through the school can have your child's information. It could be volunteers, it can be substitute teachers, it can be contractors, it could be anybody under the sun. they can give your information to the Attorney General of the United States in case it's needed for the Patriot Act. So in other words, they want to monitor your children in case of terrorist actions later on down the road. We're talking about kindergarten through 12th grade. Really? I started noticing lots of changes and lots of things. Like I said, kids are coming home with pedometers, these little fancy wristwatch things. We have to sign permission for them to wear it. I'm like, why would I need to sign permission for them to wear this? And then I started thinking, going, they're collecting the data from this. They're going to connect it to my student to say, what are they eating during the day? How much activity are they getting? How much do they weigh? How are their grades? And that's when I started really researching the FERPA issues, going, how can they do this if they're not allowed to give the information? In January of 2012, they were then given the authority to pass out the information without parental permission. That's the key part. The school doesn't have to tell you when they're giving out your child's information. They can just do it because they're authorized to. Now, how does this connect to HIPAA? As my husband outlined, I've been a social worker for more years than I care to admit. HIPAA is something that's just inherent. Confidentiality is something that's just inherent. I don't disclose anybody's information under any circumstances unless pretty much they give me permission to. Does everybody here realize in the school, your child goes to the school nurse. They have their immunization records. They have if they were injured. They may have a psychologist there who maybe did testing. We have a special needs student. He's had to have testing. We've had to have IEPs placed. Those are not considered medical records. Those are considered educational records and can be shared. They are not protected under HIPAA. So no matter what anybody tells you, if you have a student who gets any kind of care, health-based clinic in the school, anybody here have a health-based clinic? Be careful. Any treatment your child receives is not under the HIPAA Act because 9 times out of 10, the clinic will not be billing for services. Now, here's another piece of HIPAA. Basically, it qualifies under because you're going to be doing electronic billing. So how many of you, I know I do, you always got to sign every time you go to your doctor, signing permission so that they can submit for billing. They don't do that in health service clinics, at least the ones I've worked at. It's considered educational records. Therefore, it does not fall under HIPAA, which protects your medical records. It falls under FERPA. And as I said earlier, they can give it to anybody that they determine needs to have it. That's pretty much it, guys. Plug into the school, plug into what's going on. I know I've been grilling, our school district hates us. That's fine. You don't have to like me. You're going to have to deal with me until my kids finish school. And so I am going to be the watchdog and, as we say, the mama bear. And I go after anybody in this school district that's looking to give out my kids' information or do something that if I think you're stepping out of line, you're going to know about it. I encourage everybody in this audience do the same. Educate your family members. If you have younger children in your family and their parents aren't here today, let them know what's going on. All of the information is on the internet. It's going to be connected to our website. So don't hesitate to research. Join our Facebook page. Look at our library page, Connecticut. Stop Common Core in Connecticut Library. So basically, look up all the information. It's all out there. It may be buried. You may have to follow the breadcrumb trail, which I've spent months doing. But do it because it's an investment in your family and in your children. Thank you.
Nice job. That wraps up our speakers for today. Yeah, I mean, some people have asked, what can we do? What can we do? Get involved. Okay, go to your local Board of Ed. Yes, they will sit there and ignore you and look down I was actually successfully able to get a response from our chairman at a special meeting when I called them all out saying that they're a bunch of elitists and, we're just there being a nuisance to them. I got a response from him at the end of the meeting saying that they were listening. Whatever that means. Okay, Court, you want to come up and do the door prizes?
And my advice to everybody here is when you go home, find friends, talk to people. Above all, form a group. It is now the time. In fact, we're overdue. Each town needs to have its own group We're set up to help support those groups in providing information and having people go. I have a list of people who will go anywhere, anytime to protest. We'll help. But you've got to really build those local groups. That's crucial. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Court.
Thanks, guys, for all of you coming out today. Thank goodness we got a gorgeous day and not the downpour we got yesterday. I do want to bring up Dale Duffy. Dale has been working up in the quiet corner with a couple of people on educating everyone. He has been going to schools, outside of schools, Board of Ed meetings, everything, handing out flyers, signs, you name it. He's basically getting into people's faces. And that's how we're going to make a difference. Until the legislature starts listening, until some of the teachers start speaking up, until, you know, some miracle or magic happens, we need to be in these people's faces. And the more people we get to go out and speak in all your local towns and start a group like Court was saying, even, you know, if you live in Southington and you don't know anybody, just create a Facebook page. I have one for West Haven. A lot of people have one for their own town. And soon you'll just get people to come to it and they'll all start talking about it. Dale, if you would just come up and explain what you've been doing briefly.
Thank you. All right, so what we what we did in our group, and we got Rob Mann, Chrissy, and where's Kevin? So there's 4 of us here right now. So for us, we did what Court was talking about. We got together as a group. So one of the things we did was we knew that the schools were going to have their open houses. So for each open house at all the schools, we hit 23 different schools in Northeast Connecticut on the curriculum nights. And what that did was obviously give us a lot of parents going by. And what we do is we have our signs there, we have a frequently asked questions, and then we have the opt-out forms. And when they're leaving, we're sitting there basically holding it out, and they stop, and we give it to them, and we have a discussion with them, short discussion. But what we found is the parents are very appreciative. They don't understand what's going on. They're very confused, and they're happy at least somebody is giving them some information about it. Okay? So now that's what we did as collectively as a group. Now, we have a lot of different towns, and it's not easy. But, again, I think we all think it's important enough. The other thing that I did, and I'm hoping encouraging the others in towns, is I went to my Board of Ed at a meeting and specifically asked them whether, one, did they have an opt-out policy, and which they don't, okay, and if you will. But there was 2 requests I made of them at this Board of Ed meeting. One, they hold a public hearing, an informational hearing where parents can come and talk with the school administrators. The second thing that I requested is that they actually take a vote. In my opinion, they're elected officials, and they should vote. Now, what they tell me is it's non-binding because we're still in the mode of I don't have the authority, okay? But I'm going to get my day on the 22nd of October. I'm hoping to have a huge crowd there and at least get this dialogue rolling. And in some respects, I want to embarrass them. That being, you tell me that you don't have local control and you don't have the right. That's not true. There's a lot of those things. So that's what we're doing in the Northeast corner. I encourage everybody to do it. It's not easy, but you got to get out and do it for our children. Thank you.
I asked Dale to take whatever flyer he has and we'll put it up on the website that we have. Just so you know, our website is ctagainstcommoncore.org. It is not stopcommoncore.org. There's 2 different websites. So again, it's ctagainstcommoncore.org. To opt out, you go right on there, you click it, it shows you what to do. It's plain and simple. You can email it or you can submit it yourself.
Can I just throw one more thing out? One of the things, everybody, what we're trying to achieve, I don't expect I'm going to change my Board of Ed's opinion at this meeting, but what my goal is to get the town and parents to understand they can refuse to consent. They can opt out their child. And the fact is if we don't have to get all 2,000 children to be opted out for us to crash the system. If we get, and I confirmed with the what was it, Chris, 6%. If you get 6% of your school to opt out, the test becomes statistically invalid. So it's not like you got to get everybody. You know, you just got to get enough to make it statistically invalid. So that's my friend.
Just a quick question on that. Is that per district, per town in the school, or that's just for?
I think it has to do with the percentage of those taking that are eligible to test. So I haven't figured out all the numbers yet.
All right, there's other things you can also opt your children out of. There's a lot of things that if you're not actively involved in your child's school, they're not going to tell you what they're doing. For instance, they have the program where they come in every 10 days. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. Second Step. And they go in and they give you a scenario. Johnny was sad looking out the window. His brother was coming home from the Army. What do you think of this? That's something, in my opinion, I do not want my children doing. Because say Johnny, in the whole group, decides to speak up and say, well, my mom beat me last night. Do you really think I want my children coming home and telling me, Johnny, this happened to Johnny? I don't think it's anyone's business, let alone my children's business, to know what's going on in someone else's home. So Second Step is something you need to look into. The climate survey. You don't need to take it. It's stupid. Even Fleischman himself admitted that the climate survey is stupid. Opt out of it. Anything that you see that is Common Core related with your children and that is collecting data on it, investigate, look into it, ask us questions. We'll see what ways, I'll talk to Deb on how we can opt out of things. We are accepting donations, as always. There's a donation box back there. I just wanted to briefly mention that, because we plan on having, I think, another seminar, because we've hit over in Portland, now we're here, and now we're going to come back down around the Fairfield area to hopefully get the whole state of Connecticut. The website's very easy to log into, to go into, to find anything that you may need. I can't stress that enough. So many parents are asking, how can I opt out? Where do I get the information? Go to the website. It's right there. It can't be any more clear or concise. I do want to talk about some issues that I overheard throughout the summer of some children who did opt out of the testing. I had several parents that emailed me or called me, and one was told me that their children were made to go clean the classrooms. If a teacher wasn't in their classrooms and they didn't have anything to do because they opted out, that child had to go clean that classroom. Several children were not allowed to have hot lunch because they opted their children out. And that's just like minor things to what some of these children are dealing with. My son right now, we're only in the first month, maybe a month and a half of school, crying every night because he's coming home with homework that the school teacher is not teaching him. And I try to explain it to him, for instance, division, and I'm trying to tell him, well, what if, say it's 3 divided by 47, and they need to know the number. So I say, well, does 4 go into 7 and make this? And he doesn't understand it that way. My son is a very bright child. He's never had any issues before. He didn't learn multiplication, division, and fractions in 2nd grade, and now they're dumping it all on him. And I was told I can't write notes on my son's homework because the teacher doesn't like it. So at this point, I've basically made the decision to homeschool my children because I can't take it anymore. I just can't. I just want to reiterate and thank, Kai Westby and James Brown who came today. Kai Westby, he was at the convention, Republican convention. He said it in his speech. He said it all over. He will do anything for us to get Common Core out. I know he needs a few more donations to get his to to get his grant, but other than that, he is the one person that if we can get Jepson out and Kai in, would be a huge score for us. And James Brown is going head-to-head with Rosa DeLauro. We all know we need to get her out at some point. I couldn't give them all chances to speak today because I told everyone this would not be a political thing, but you do need to get to know your candidates. I'm working with mine that's running against Paul Davis. So just get out there, do your best, and if you have any questions, let us know. Yes? Yes?
The Attorney General, I will say, is very important because
No, it's okay.
Okay, so many issues, but I've spent the last 6 weeks researching the P20 database and every document associated with it. And I will tell you that there are basically 3 people that grant the access to the outside agencies, okay? But the Attorney General, when they add an agency, is the person that those 3 people have to ask first. So understand that the Attorney General doesn't have to give his approval necessarily, which it should be, but they do have to consult with him on it. So having someone in that position in terms of the P20 database is incredibly important. So write to those 3 candidates. Well, one of them you already know, doesn't matter. And also for the lawyer, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. When it comes to the state statutes for the P20 database, I can tell you that it says that those agencies, should there be a breach of this information, which happens all the time, 2 things that are important to know is that according to my research on the state statutes of that, is that the agencies have been granted no liability. Okay, so that means that if there's a breach, you can't sue them. And that the second thing was that if there's a breach, they don't have to tell you. So there are steps when there's a breach in these governing policies that tell them that they have to tell the State Department of Education there was a breach, what was breached, and what they're going to do to fix it. But telling you is not a part of that process. So that's huge to know. And also, you can't sue them even if somehow you did find out, which you'll never find out because they're not supposed to tell you. So I have written to every candidate on my ballot about that, and I suggest everyone do that as well because I don't think that a lot of them know, including my superintendent, who basically went and just sent me all the documents I already had for 3 weeks. So I don't even think they know what they're uploading, to be honest. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but to be honest.
They don't know.
Right, until you tell them what you're uploading, they don't know. So know that you can't sue them, know them you're not being informed, and tell your candidates that they need to change that policy.
I would agree with
I've spoken to
everything you
Kai.
said.
He's
Yeah.
on board. He knows what it's all about. And
Yeah.
the other guy is too.
There is sovereign immunity for all state officials, and it's extremely difficult to get. There are certain exceptions to sovereign immunity, but it's extremely difficult to go through the hurdles to get any court to agree that any government official has any liability for any violation. So that is an extremely uphill battle, and that's what you would have to do if you wanted to try to get them, to have liability in anything. But I would also agree that it is absolutely crucial for the Attorney General position to have someone in there who believes in the Constitution and actually applies it. The Attorney General's job is to advise and defend state agencies. That's what his job is. And if you're advising the state agency with an eye toward, well, it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, do it anyway, that's one thing. But if you advise the state agency that the Constitution means something, then you're going to get a very different response. And I do know of Kai Westby, and he has articulated publicly his support for the Constitution. And whatever you think, interview them yourselves and find out their positions on parental rights. That, and particularly anybody running for the state Senate, there's only 36 positions in the state Senate. If you, whatever your position on any issue, if you can have enough people in the Senate to stop that legislation, that would be the easier place to go than the House. There's a lot more members in the House. So those races would be the ones to concentrate on, the Attorney General race and the State Senate.
I do have to say that when we had our hearing, yes, the Republicans got us the hearing, but I was told probably several months after that they don't think they can do any more for us. And these are the women and men that came up to me afterwards and said, we will do everything we can to help you. But behind our back said, no, we're really not going to help you because we don't want to go against the grain. So if you want to change, you've got to change. And as far as Jepson is concerned, when we tried to opt out and Dan Malloy and all of them were saying, no, you cannot, no, you cannot, they had to go to Jepson and get his opinion. And technically, with his position, he should have came back and told Stefan Pryor that, yes, you can. But he did not do so. So I'm just letting you know that Jepson had the opportunity to do what he needed to do. He ignored it, as in Stefan Pryor, but he's going bye-bye. Thank God we did do one thing right. And thank you all for coming.
Anybody? Oh, thank you.